New primer full of powder and one of my homemade bullets. Here we go. There's the new there's the new primer, still all intact. And there's the case. There we are. Smashed flat. That's why it was stuck. The bullet went up in the little center hole. Welcome to Amateur Redneck Workshop. I'm Harold, and today we're going to work on some casting of some scrap I've got laying around. Pierre, Pierre, close your mouth. You're going to get flies in there. Hey, Phil, do something about Pierre. He's frozen up there. Okay, you know, maybe I don't know what the deal is. I got abducted by aliens here yesterday. Thankfully, they weren't the anal probe kind of aliens, but I think they did DNA experiments on me or something because I really haven't felt like myself, since this happened. And I just, things are weird. It's been weird all day. Uh, anyway, what we're going to do today is I'm going to get all my scrap aluminum, the swarf from the lathe and old lawn chair I cut up and the old Craftsman belt sander parts and all that. And I'm going to melt it down to ingots so that it'll sort of have all my scrap consolidated before I get around to casting any items. What's the matter, Pierre? You keep staring like that. Pierre, hey, Phil, can't you do something about him? He's distracting me. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, before we do that, of course, we've got the bit about the Seventh Amendment. Oh no, we did that last week. We're going to do the Eighth Amendment this time. No do-overs. Okay, so let's get on with it. Well, today we're going to do the Eighth Amendment to the United States Constitution, number 8 amongst the 10 that are considered to be the Bill of Rights. And I think the Eighth Amendment is pretty important, just like all the others. The Eighth Amendment to the United States Constitution states, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, or cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. This amendment prohibits the federal government from imposing unduly harsh penalties on criminal defendants, either as the price for obtaining pretrial release or as punishment for crime after conviction. There's a lot of mystery about this cruel and unusual punishment part. There had not been an excessive amount of cruel and unusual punishment in the 13 colonies, but some things about the history of the phrase cruel and unusual punishments. In 1689, a full century before the ratification of the United States Constitution, England adopted a Bill of Rights that prohibited cruel and unusual punishments. There we go, copying the English again. In 1776, George Mason included a prohibition of cruel and unusual punishments in the Declaration of Rights he drafted for the Commonwealth of Virginia In 1791, this same prohibition became the central component of the Eighth Amendment to the United States Constitution. I'll get my tongue untangled. And I imagine that they weren't too far from the time when in Europe that there were definitely some cruel and unusual punishments, such as the king might have somebody drawn and quartered. I understand that that's where you tie one of each of the guy's limbs to one of four different horses and run and stampede them off in different directions. That would definitely yank you into, looks to me like maybe 5 pieces, but maybe 4. I don't know. And they had the rack where they would tie your ankles to something solid, and they would crank you with a rope and stretch you, really tight. And I saw pictures of another cruel and unusual punishment where they'd come along and slice your belly open and let your guts fall out into a big old pan of hot coals. So those would qualify as cruel and unusual punishments. In fact, I guess human beings are unique in all of the animal kingdom as being the only ones that do cruel and unusual things to each other. There doesn't seem to be any limit to what cruel things people can think up to do. Oh well. Anyway, that's the Eighth Amendment, and we're going to move on now to the stuff I've been up to here lately. I had a bunch of swarf collected in an orange bucket out in the garage, and I had a lawn chair I cut up, and I had the leftovers of the old Craftsman belt sander that didn't work out for me. And so I thought, well, I'm working up soon to casting some parts, and I figure out instead of having to go through a bunch of problems consolidating all those little pieces of scrap and swarf and all that stuff, that I'd go ahead and get it into ingots right off. And then at the time, whatever extra stuff that I had, I could toss it into the crucible and just get on with the casting part, At least that's the idea. So we're going to go out and we're going to cast some scrap aluminum into ingots. And when we get through with that, we'll have a Bubba joke. I think that'd be a good thing. Okay, see you out in the garage or somewhere. Today's the day I'm going to try to take a bunch of scrap aluminum and melt it down into a couple of ingots. And that means I'm going to pull all those pieces there out of that crucible and pack in all the chips off of my lathe, all the stringy, runny stuff there that's going to be hard to pack in. I think it'll be a lot more fun now when this is cold than it'll be when it's hot. It was 73 in here until I had to open that door and roll the foundry outside. Already lost the ground there 1 degree. It's in the mid to upper 90s outside, so it ain't gonna get no better in here, but it'll sure be a lot better than outside. Too bad I'm working outside. Okay, so there we go. I got my toys all lined up out here. There's the foundry. Hooked up to gas. There's my tongs and stuff for getting stuff out. And out there in the sun, there's the mold for the ingots that I hope to make. So we'll set this thing on fire and get started. Alright, we got a fire in it, and it's cranking on away. I guess it'll probably be 15 or 20 minutes before it melts everything. So I'll let you rest while I sweat. After almost forever, it's ready. Well, I didn't figure out how to move the camera when I was pouring the ingot, and I almost ran it over. Well, so that's what I got out of a pile of shavings. I still got a pile of shavings over there, but I don't know that I can get them in the bucket. But I may go try, so I'll be back. This ought to round off the next ingot pretty well. I'll throw it in there and that'll be the last of the stuff I melt. Alright, that batch melted quick. I'm on my way over with the next ingot. I think the dross pretty much stayed in there. I've got to get a better little clamp for holding on to that crucible, like I'm close to dropping it in the grass. But that's it for today. I'm turn you guys off and clean up. Well, there's the ingots that I cast from the swarf and scrap and old lawn chair and belt sander and such. Come out pretty good, I guess, as far as the ingots go. Well, that no account Bubba sloughed it off on Ole this time, so we're going to have to go up to Minnesota with Ole and Sven, his buddy there. And so one day in the middle of winter, Ole and Sven got their fishing poles and they took off. They was out there setting up their gear and fixed to start cutting a hole in the ice, and this voice comes from above: "There are no fish under the ice." They look at each other a little bit. I don't know, and they go back to trying to cut away on the ice. And this voice again says, "There are no fish under the ice." And Ole says in a real meek voice, "What is that? Are you God?" And the voice comes back, "No, I'm the ice rink attendant." Yeah, there's probably not any fish under the ice. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed some of today's video. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. And if you got any comments, stick those suckers in there. I'll even take bad comments as long as I get something. And all I can say is thanks for watching, and y'all keep on keeping on.